Okay, welcome to my shop. Today I'm going to discuss how I make my little mice. Normally I take a chunk of wood, just a rough block of wood, scrap, I grab it in a chuck and I'll round over the edge and I'll put a 1/8 inch hole in the end so that I can screw my little screw chuck on. I just round over the bottom end, which will be the back end of the mouse, and this will be in my chuck, and I'll screw this piece on. So this is already rough rounded, and with this in the chuck, then I just shape the nose of the mouse. Okay, so that's basically turning the mouse body. The next step is to clean the mouse body up and get ready for putting the ears and the tails on. First thing I'd like to do is buff them on my Beal buffing system here. So what I'll do is I'll move these mice out of the way, and I'll just put them on here. I'll put magnets in these mice. Get rid of this. And I'll have my buffing system. And what I found, if I just tried to hold this little mouse in my hand with the buffing system spinning, I can't tell you how many times I grabbed it out of my hand and it was gone. So I made myself a little handle. I just cut the head off a screw and glued it into a piece of wood. And that worked for a little while until I found out that this handle is just a little bit too small for my grubby arthritic. I'm getting a little bit of arthritis in my fingers, so it's a little hard to hang on to. Sometimes it'll grab it out of the way. So then I graduated to something a little nicer for me. It's just a little bigger handle, and it's got this little divot in here, so when I grab it, it can't get away on me. And so I just take these nice bodies and I polish them up. And that's Tripoli, White Diamond, and Carnauba. And they come out nice and shiny. And so I'd go ahead and do a whole assembly of mice like this, get them cleaned up, and they'd be ready for putting ears on them. Okay, so now, when I was making my ears and tails, I take a hockey puck, just an ordinary hockey puck, and I have a gasket cutter here that is designed for cutting holes in paper gaskets, and it's about the right size for what I'm doing here. So when I get ready to put the ears and the tails on a couple of mice that have been polished up, first thing I do is make the ears, and I've got a little gasket punch here that's about the right size, and I've taken a grinder and I've ground off a notch on one side. So then when I use this on a piece of leather and I hit it with a hammer, I usually put the little notch to one side, so I'm about a 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. And you'll notice this leaves a little bit of a tail on one side. Wherever the little gap is, it doesn't cut it. Then what I do is I take my scissors. I would go ahead and punch a whole bunch of ears along one edge, and then when I'm done I would come along and just cut either side of the ear, and that leaves a little bit of a tail on one end. And that makes it easier then to put the ear in the mouse. So the key thing is to have this notch pointing towards the edge and leave enough of a tail so that when you cut it out with the scissors, you'll have a big enough tail that you can put into the mouse. So there's one. There's two. And you'll see there's a little bit of leather fob on one end. So when I take my scissors now and just cut that little bit, that leaves a little bit of a tail on the end of the ear, so that'll fit into the hole that you're going to drill in the mouse's body. It's a little bit fiddly, but once you get a few of these going, I usually cut a whole bunch of ears at one time and put them in this little jar, and then I've got them when I decide to do a batch of mice. I've got it. So there you go. Now you may be able to see that a little easier. There's a little bit of a tail on the end of the disc. So there's a little disc of leather and there's a bit of a tail on it. And that'll come in handy when we go to put these ears on this mouse. So then we'll take a mouse body, and I normally flatten one side on a sander. I'll put a sander in my on my lathe, and I'll just flatten one side wherever I think whether I want the mouse to be looking up or looking down. Take a look at the grain and see where I want to put the ears. On this one, I think it'd be nice to have the ears on either side of this little mark on here. So I'll get the drill bit for the ears. I use this bit here, and I believe it's 5/32. It's not critical, but it's the size of bit that I use for putting my ears on. And again, having the little mouse body screwed onto a handle makes it easy to kind of hold it when you're lining this up to drill the ear holes. You just eyeball it and drive it in. So that's one ear. And there's the other ear. And then what I like to do too, just to make it a little easier to put the tail in, is to just remount this hole. Okay, once I've got the ear holes and the tail hole reamed out, I switch to a bit that's the right size for the magnets that I'm using. And today I've got a magnet that's I think it's 5/16. Okay, so when I'm ready to put the magnets in, I figure out kind of where I want the mouse to sit, whether I want them looking up or looking down, and I put a flat on one side. And I still like to use this little handle for holding the mouse body. And when I take the drill and just drill a magnet hole, that's about all it takes for a magnet hole. And I normally use gloves when I'm doing the glue up on here, so I don't get CA all over my hands. But I normally do a bunch of them at the same time. So if I was doing mice bodies, I would probably do 25 or 30 at a time. I have a bunch of mouse bodies roughed out, and I do these in stages. So I'll put the little bit of CA glue on here in the hole. And I use medium thick CA. I don't know if that's, you could probably do thin CA, but I use medium thick, and push it in. And basically that's the mouse. Now we're going to put the ears on. I have another tool for putting ears on. I set the mouse body down on the flat, and sometimes I'll use a little jig like this. It's got a little more mass to it, and the magnet will hold the mouse mouse flat. I can put a clamp on here if I wanted to, or I can put this in a vise, and when I'm working with the mice, this is in a vise, I can just clip the mouse on the magnet, and any kind of stands in one spot. One of the things I've learned with working with CA, it gets pretty sticky and gets all over everything. And so one of the things I've learned to do is I start using toothpicks a lot for applying CA in the places I want. And in order to do that effectively or easily, I can just put a blob of CA down on a piece of masking tape on the bench. And then I'll get a toothpick, just a regular little toothpick, grab some CA on the end of the toothpick, and then I can just gingerly put the CA glue in the hole, a little bit in each of the holes. Just like that. And then I take the mouse ears and I decide which way I want the ear to be facing, whether I want the fuzzy side forward or the whichever side I want to be forward. And then I lay the mouse ear over top of the hole. I don't know if you'll get to see this very well, but I put the mouse little tail over the hole, and then I just push it in. Like that. And take the second one and do the same thing. The key thing is to make sure that I put the same side forward on both. So basically I'm laying this on the mouse body, and the little tail of the ear is sticking over the hole, and I just push it in. Okay, and this little pusher tool is just a drill bit, and I just drilled a hole in there and just drilled the drill in, and it's just in a piece of wood. But it's a little bit smaller than the drill bit I used to make the hole, and it pushes the ear in beautifully. Now to put the tail in, same process. Basically, you take a little bit of CA, and this allows you to put the CA right in the hole rather than messing around all over the place. And then we'll get a little tail. I'll just make a little tail here right quick like. I just take a piece of leather and cut the piece of leather, and the same thing here is I'll lay the tail across the hole so that there's probably a ½ inch of material on both sides of the hole, and then just push it in. And the leather seems to have an effect on the CA, so that as soon as it contacts the wood and the leather, it acts like an accelerator. And there you go. And then to put eyes on the mouse, I just take my razor tip burner and I just put 2 little burn marks, and then that gives me what looks like a pair of eyes, and we're done. And that's how I make my mouse bodies. Quick, simple. That's it. Thanks for watching.